What is up, everybody? Welcome back into Tide Talk Live. Stacy Blackwood, Jake Thomas here on this Monday night to kind of recap and look back at what happened on Saturday in the 8A game. A lot to kind of dissect and take apart and look at. But before we do that, guys, you know the drill. Like, share, and subscribe. Jump in the comment section. The chat is live, so make sure you jump in there and give us your thoughts and opinions on the 8A game and what maybe some good, the bad, and the ugly, or anything like that. We'd love to hear from you guys in the chat. But Jake, 8A was fun. It was a pretty day. But first of all, how are you doing? And I guess we'll just go right into it. Initially, your thoughts on 8A and how the team looked.
Yeah, Stacey, glad to be back. It's been a couple of weeks. Thanks for holding down the fort for us. But it was a great weekend in 8A, man. I got to watch a little bit of the game. I didn't get to see all of it. I have watched the entirety since then. But my initial reaction is, okay, the physicality on defense is back. And John kind of going on what I said. The defense looked very good. Yeah. We talk about Pete Golden, and we all have our opinions about him. He's going to be a great coach, I think. I mean, he has the potential to be a great coach. It just wasn't something just never clicked at Alabama with him. But now Kevin Steele comes in, and my gosh, this defense, the physicality is there, and that's something that Pete Golden just could not seem to instill in his players. But Kevin Steele has instilled it in his, and man, they were physical the other day.
Yeah, no doubt. Dean says, Jake, you need to fix your mic.
Yeah, I got it. Sorry.
No, I agree with you. I think the physicality, that's the first thing that jumped out to me about the 8A game, was just the amount of physicality that the both sides of the line of scrimmage played with. I thought the linebackers really come up and played the run in a physical way. I noticed several different occasions, and it wasn't just one player, how they all just kind of flew to the football with bad intentions, and that was really nice to see. A lot more aggressive style, no more delayed blitzes. Most blitzes were, as soon as the ball was snapped, there was nothing, waiting 10 seconds after the ball was snapped where anybody comes on a blitz.
Right.
I feel like the physical brand seems to be returning. We talked about that, leading up to 8A all throughout the spring, and how Coach Saban has wanted this to be a more physical team, a more physical program, and kind of get back to the basics is kind of what Coach Saban has labeled it. And I would say that the 8A really just solidified what Coach has been preaching, this entire spring.
Yeah, absolutely. And going back to the defense real quick, Stacey, Dean said the running backs look great too. We'll go and get to them here shortly. But going back to defense, and you talked about it, how the linebackers kind of set the edge. You got to think they were setting the edge on the runs without our best linebackers out there. Our two best linebackers are out in this game. But those guys, I mean, they showed what the improvement and what they could be this season. And I mean, they come up, they stuffed the run, they were setting the edge, they didn't really let anybody get outside. I think when Miller broke his run, it was just right up the middle, but the edges were set. So, I mean, that's just great to see the linebackers coming together, the secondary played great. I'm more impressed with the defense than I was offensively, just as a whole, in the 8A, just how physical they looked.
Yeah, but the defense is generally ahead of the offense, and
Right.
especially in the spring, especially when you're having a new quarterback, so a new offensive coordinator. So you anticipate the defense to be a little bit ahead of schedule as opposed to the offense. And Randy's going ahead and jumping right into the quarterback conversation, because that is something that everybody wants to talk about. Obviously, the
Right.
quarterback position is the most important position on the field. And look, I'm not saying that and I wrote about it this morning on Roll Tide Wire, about how, obviously Jalen nor Ty are Bryce Young.
Right.
But they don't have to be.
Mm-hmm.
Look, Randy brings it up. Jake Coker won a title in 15. We made it to the college football playoff with Blake Sims as our quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely.
Won the SEC championship with Blake Sims as our quarterback,
Right.
who went like 2 of 25 in the 8A game. that year.
Yeah.
So, look, am I saying I'm satisfied with where the quarterbacks are? Probably not. But to think that I'm disappointed, that's not true either. In fact, I would be more leaning to pleasantly surprised where the quarterbacks are than I would be disappointed in where they're at right now. Look, they both got growing to do, but they're both inexperienced players. They've not had to be the guy yet. It's a long way until September 2nd when Middle Tennessee State shows up in Bryant-Denny Stadium. So pump the brakes, relax. It was just the A-Day game. Bryce Young went like 9 of 26 going into the first year that he was a starter, and all he did, Jake, I think, was win the Heisman. I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Look.
And number 1 overall player in this year's draft.
And it's probably going to be the number 1 pick in the draft later this week. So pump the brakes a little bit, relax. And also, to add a little context, the wind was blowing, gusting about 20 to 30 miles per hour all throughout the scrimmage. That obviously had an effect on some of the deeper passing routes. Also, there was several drops. So look, you have to put everything into context. Were they perfect? No. Did they make some mistakes? Yes. Are they young players? Yes. Did they show some promise? Absolutely. Jake, there was some throws by each player. And even, Dylan Lonergan looked pretty solid as a freshman. But both Milroe and Simpson made throws that you're like, oh, yeah, Alabama can win some games with this guy.
No, yeah.
And so
Absolutely.
I just think people need to relax a little bit, pump the brakes on panicking over the quarterback situation because it's a long way until September, and these dudes ain't going to do nothing but get better.
Exactly. And staying on the topic of the quarterbacks, like you said, there's a lot of drops. I do remember a couple of passes that stand out. I believe Milroe had a chance late in the second half. He threw a deep ball into the end zone that was dropped. It was well covered as well, but, he threw it perfect, right on the money. And then right around, I think, right before halftime, Ty Simpson drove down the field, and they got in scoring range. And then Earl Little Jr. just had an outstanding, interception. So, and that was a great thrown ball. We talked about it beforehand, Stacey. You said 90% of the time that's either going to go as an incomplete or a touchdown. But Earl Little, I think they call him the second down there. He just made an outstanding play.
Yeah, sometimes you got to tip your hat to the other guy.
Right.
Just because the other guy makes a great play doesn't mean you made the wrong or a bad play. So
exactly.
I think it's important. Like I said, I was telling Jake before we started that everything has to be in context. And look, the A-Day game is a glorified scrimmage. You don't think the coaching staff knew exactly what they were going to be doing all throughout they did. It was not completely scripted, but the majority of that scrimmage was scripted, or there was some type of organization to what was happening during the scrimmage. So you can't take a whole lot from it. You can't overreact to it one way or the other. If Jalen Milroe would have come out and went 20 of 25 for 350 yards and 4 touchdowns and no interceptions, I would have been excited, but I would have said, pump the brakes a little bit. He's probably not going to win the Heisman, which is what Alabama fans would have been saying. Or and you got other people on social media that have absolutely no clue. Like Big Game Boomer, he gets on Twitter and says Alabama's going to go 7-5. Good grief. Does he not realize how many years in a row Alabama's won 10 games or more?
It was like 15 years.
Has Saban look, maybe I don't know something that he knows. Has Saban magically forgotten how to win games?
We cover Alabama, and I hadn't heard this news, that Saban's forgotten how to win games. So,
Exactly, Dean. It's just a practice, and
yeah,
I'm okay with where the defense is at because Jake mentioned how both Chris Braswell and Dallas Turner were out. Deontay Lawson was out. So, that's 3 of your better defenders that were not participating in the A-Day game. So, that not only affects your first-team defense, because then your second team guys at those positions have to move up and play first team. So therefore, it affects your second team defense. Your third team guys got to come up
Yeah.
and fill in the role of the second team guys who are playing on the first team now. So
Right.
it was kind of a domino effect on the defensive side of the ball. But like we said in the opening, I was really excited with how aggressive they were, especially for a scrimmage. I don't remember an 8A game where we blitzed so much. I mean, there was so much pressure, and it wasn't 4-man pressures. It was 5, 6, 7 guys coming, and it was all those guys could do to protect the quarterbacks. And I thought for the most part, I know there was a bunch of sacks, but half of those wouldn't have been sacks and real gains because both Milroe and Simpson are pretty athletic, and they would have been able to maneuver out of the pocket. But
Right.
I thought for the most part the offensive line did a pretty good job of really just not really. They didn't dominate by any stretch of the imagination, but I thought they held up pretty good considering, if their quarterback gets touched, then the play's dead, and
Right.
that's not real football. So you can't be overly critical of that either. Yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying, Dean. You were
Yeah.
saying if Milroe would have come out and scorched the defense, yeah. Yeah.
Where's the defense?
Yeah, exactly. So you're never gonna. You're playing against Alabama's playing against Alabama. You're not always going to be happy in these scrimmages because
Right.
one team's going to look great and the other one, that means the other one looks bad. So you got to take it lightly. It's a practice. This is really more of something for the fans to have a little bit of entertainment before the summer gets here and there's no football for a long time. So that's basically all it is. And I just think it's premature. I think it's overreaction to be either overhyped or in the dumps over what happened on Saturday.
Yeah. I wanted to make two real quick comments, and if somebody in the chat wants to refer, Stacey will also give his opinion on this. But going back to the quarterbacks real quick, I think I sent Stacey a text today. With the way the running backs are looking and the way the defense is setting up to look like, I'm fine with the quarterback battle going into the first week or so into the season, because if it takes that long to figure out who it's going to be, I think running the ball and the defense, especially now, have been so physical, having that physical attitude, we're going to be okay, especially against Middle Tennessee State. And then the other thing, going on the defensive side, I want to shout out. I mean, everybody played great, but to me, Malachi Moore for the last couple of years has been riddled with injuries. He looked like he's finally healthy, and he was having fun Saturday too. So he was having a great game, had a great game. So I'm glad to see that, because I feel like he can be a playmaker this year in that secondary if he can stay healthy.
Well, we'll just kind of keep it in the secondary. I think the secondary, if that group can stay healthy, if Terrion Arnold, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Caleb Downs, Malachi Moore, Earl Little, and Christian Story can all stay healthy, Alabama's secondary is going to be elite, and they are going to create a lot of turnovers because Malachi Moore proved as a freshman that he's kind of a ball hawk. He's somehow always around the ball, always making a play on it. Caleb Downs is a stud. I mean, I don't think it's an overreaction to say that he might be the best player, pure football player on Alabama's team right now.
As a freshman.
Christian Story is a guy who seems to always make plays. Always, I mean, he gets an interception like every single A-Day.
I know.
And we know what we have in Kool-Aid McKinstry. Terrion Arnold looks to be much improved from his freshman season last year, so he's got some experience under his belt, so he's going to be a good player. And then, like you mentioned, Earl Little makes that great interception against Ty Simpson. He's a guy that the coaching staff really likes. So I think if those 6 guys can stay healthy, you're looking at a really good secondary that I think is going to be a playmaking secondary. Look, we talked all last season about how the back end just did not create a lot of turnovers, and that really plagued the defense last year and really over the last couple of years. And I think it's going to be a little bit different looking secondary for Alabama this year. I think they're going to be a little bit more ball hawking, a little more physical overall. and they're going to do a better job of making plays on the football and creating turnovers, and I think that's going to be really critical, and that has to be part of what Alabama does this year because they don't have a Bryce Young at quarterback who can bail you out in certain areas of the game. So
Right.
you're going to be more physical on the offensive side of the football, running the football, going off play action. So defensively, you got to do a better job of creating turnovers and getting your offense more possessions in the game. And I think this team is really kind of met together. Look, I think last year's team was more talented than what this year's team is probably going to be, but I think the collective group is going to be better in 2023.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And going on what John said, yeah, Downs should still be in high school. I mean, think about it. He's come on campus, and I mean, as 18 years old and just taking over a starting spot, at Alabama. I mean, at Alabama, they always talk about Saban don't never go to Alabama because Saban never plays freshmen. I'm sorry. Look at Caleb Downs. I can give you a list full of freshmen who have played. So
Right.
I hate when people talk about that, but yeah, this secondary, and I also want to say you might not see him a lot on the field. You might see him like on kickoffs and stuff. But Jake Pope,
Oh man,
yeah,
headhunter. He's a headhunter.
he is, man. He was just knocking heads all day. So it'd be interesting to see, if he might try to sneak in or
Yeah, see, and I like Jake Pope. Devontae Smith is another guy. He
Yeah,
was kind of
another
nicked
guy.
up all spring as well. I think there's good players there, but the truth is, outside of Kool-Aid and Malachi Moore, they don't really have a lot of experience back there. So
Right.
it's going to be critical that they stay healthy back there, because they need to keep what little experience they have healthy. So
Right.
Malachi's health and Kool-Aid's health are going to be critical for the secondary. And as we stick on the defensive side of the ball, Jake, I want to talk about the inside linebackers because I was really pleased with what Alabama has at inside linebacker. Look, we know what we have in Deontay Lawson. He played with the ones a lot last year, got some starts, looks to be the future at inside linebacker for Alabama. But who is going to start beside him? I think you have a situation where there's like four guys that could start
Right.
there. Tresman Marshall, the Georgia transfer, looks good. Jihad Campbell looks like a guy that you have to have on the field somehow.
Yeah.
Because not only is he good at the inside linebacker spot, but he's really good at blitzing and kind of creating a pass rush off the edge, kind of like Rashaan Evans did
Right.
back in the day for Alabama. I think Justin Jefferson's a guy that is really dangerous because he has elite speed and quickness. He's going to be play coverage really well and cover backs out of the backfield at a high level, and he comes downhill with bad intentions. Then you think about Sean Murphy, Jake, Kendrick Blackshire. So I think at inside linebacker group, you got to think that you're going to be in pretty good shape there because there's a handful of guys that could. I mean, I would be happy with any of them starting. Like I wouldn't feel like it's a weakness on the team with any of those guys, getting the majority of the reps.
Yeah, I agree. And the good thing about that, you have, like you said, 5 or 6 guys that can play, and that's going to keep fresh legs on the field at all times because one series you can put one in and then pull them out, the next one go in. I mean, so you won't get that, you won't run the body down late in the year. You have fresh legs, and especially late in the season, you need a good pass rush. Having that fresh leg is going to be a lot better than a tired leg for sure.
Yeah, Dean says Jefferson's going to give some QB problems.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, Jefferson has me really excited because his closing speed it's Harold Perkins esque from LSU, the guy that was a freshman last year that just tore it up. That's who he reminds me of as far as just his ability to close on the football. It's next level good. And I imagine, look, Coach Saban is all about matchups. So
Right.
I imagine there's going to be several packages that involve various different inside linebacker pairings on the field. So I'm excited to kind of see how that looks and plays out this fall because you got to find a way to get Jefferson on the field. To me, there's 4 guys that have to play this year at inside linebacker. You have to get Jefferson on the field. You have to get Jihad Campbell on the field. You have to get Tresman Marshall on the field, and you have to get Deontay Lawson on the field.
Right.
Those 4 guys have to play some type of role in this defense in 2023 because they're all too good not to play. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what Coach Saban and Kevin Steele do there, and Robert Bala, the new linebackers coach, does. He's got plenty to work with there.
No, really any position coach on this team has plenty to work with. I mean,
Yeah.
they're so deep and talented. But going to the defensive line, Stacey, they didn't really do a lot of flashy things. I think they held their own. And if we have those linebackers, behind them next year, as long as they hold up a couple blocks on the offensive line, come in the season and let them linebackers get to the quarterback, I'm perfectly fine with that.
Well, here's how I know the defensive line played well, because everybody is talking about how well the linebackers played.
Right.
And in this defense, Jake, your defensive linemen are not going to get a ton of stats, but they did their job because it allowed Jefferson to make plays, Marshall to make plays, Jihad Campbell to make plays. So that's what that's what made me realize the defensive line played well. Tim Smith, I think, is probably one of the most improved players on Alabama's
Yes.
team. I even think the coaching staff awarded him one of the most improved players this spring. So I think he's a guy who can make a lot of plays for Alabama. But I like what we have on the defensive line with Jaheim Otis, Justin Aboybe, Tim Smith, Jamil Burrows. You got Jamarian Latham missed all spring. Then you got the freshman James Smith. So there's plenty of dudes there. And they'll be rotating those guys in a good bit as well, and we'll see a different variety of players along the defensive line. But I'm really pleased where they're at right now. Still looking for that one guy to kind of be a playmaker, and it could be any of them. I mean, that's the truth.
Good. Yeah, it could. Tim Smith and Justin Aboybe, we both have said, it feels like they need to start stepping up their game a little bit. And I think this is Boybe's last season to do it, and he's shown signs before he got injured last year. He started.
Well, he was Alabama's best defensive lineman up until he got hurt last year.
Exactly.
He was playing the best football of his career. And I'll say this: I think if Aboybe would have stayed healthy all season long and continued to play like he did the first 4 games of the season, he would probably be a second round pick this week in the draft.
Probably
Because
so.
he's 6'5", 295. His arms reach from here to Canada. So the scouts would have loved him. I believe he probably would have tested pretty well because he's pretty athletic for a big guy. So I think the scouts would have loved him, and in the right scheme he could make some plays. So I think the injury was unfortunate for him. But he gets to come back and do it again here for his 5th year in Tuscaloosa, and it's just another experienced player, good player. Look, we know. See, this is what's great about the defensive line. We know that Justin Boyd is a good player. We know that Jaheim Otis is a good player with the potential to be elite. We know that Tim Smith is a really good player. We know that Jamil Burrows is a good player. It looks like James Smith is that next dude. So I just think that the defensive line is going to be a position group to watch this fall because they could be one of the more improved groups on the team this year.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
All right, look, I think we talked about the offensive line a little bit ago, kind of when we were talking about earlier.
Thank you, David.
Hey, appreciate it, David. Really appreciate that. And I think if there's one negative that you want to that you're going to take away from the 8A game, Jake, it's the drop passes from the receivers. There was just way too many. And it when you're trying to break in new quarterbacks, you can't drop passes.
Right.
And Coach Saban mentioned in the post game that was something that was not an issue the entire spring. Not sure what happened on A-Day. Maybe, and I'm not trying to make excuses. I'm just trying to, like I said, put everything into context. Maybe the wind that was blowing, it affected the concentration because the ball was moving different than what it normally does. And I don't know. I wouldn't, I'm not those guys, so I can't tell you what happened. Maybe they just lost a little bit of concentration. But the drop passes to me were about the only concerning thing from the 8A game.
Yeah, I agree. And a couple of bright spots at wide receiver. Malik Benson's come in and he had a great game. I think he had not 9 catches or 7 catches, and then Kendrick Law I thought played really well as well. So those are probably one of the a few bright spots at the wide receiving core this weekend.
Yeah, I thought Kendrick Law looked good. I thought Emmanuel Henderson looked
He
good.
did good too. Yeah,
And see, that's another position. Like, I mean, good luck figuring out who they're going to play.
I know it. About 10 guys on the team.
I mean, legitimately, I think there's like 7 or
Yeah, I
8
know.
that could play. Obviously, you can't play that many. You can play probably 5 or 6 consistently with the first team.
Yeah,
But once you start playing more than that, you're not really developing any chemistry or continuity with your quarterback. So you got to kind of limit that somehow. You know, the portal could open up possibilities as far as, some guys leaving. You never know how that's going to play out. But I think the receivers will be better this year.
yeah,
But I think it's important to remember that we don't have to be elite at quarterback. We don't have to be elite at wide receiver. As long as we're physical up front, make plays in the passing game when they become available and when they present themselves, and then let our stable of backs just hammer away at opponents and eat up clock, and then let that defense make plays and create turnovers.
yeah. And you just did a great segue into the running backs. We already know what Jace McClellan's going to give us. And then after that, Roy Dale kind of he did okay, but everybody's talking about Justice Haynes for good measure, man. But I really want to look at a guy like Jam Miller. I mean, people don't need to forget him because I feel like I was talking to somebody on Twitter the other day about it during the game. He kind of reminds me like a Josh Jacobs type guy. So if he could be that third guy behind Haynes and Milrow or not Milrow, but McClellan, I mean, dadgum but still you got Roydell Williams still on there. You got Young coming in. So you talk about that stable of bats, man. It's insane.
Well, look, I kind of look at the running backs the way I was kind of looking at the defensive lineman, Jake. Look, we know that Jace McClellan's good. And
Right.
we know that we can win a lot of games with Jace McClellan.
Right.
We know that Rodell Williams is good. He's really good in short yardage situations. He puts the ball in the end zone when he's asked to down at the goal line. So we know that Rodell Williams is good. But Justice Haynes and Jam Miller are difference makers.
Oh, yeah,
They are difference makers, Jake, and I think, especially Justice Haynes, man, he has that it factor. I don't know how to explain it. He just got it, and for Coach Saban to be bragging on him the way he's been bragging on him, that tells me all I need to know about him.
Yeah, absolutely. Randy, yeah. Be molded. These guys have first start to show these new coordinators they can step up and lead. That's another thing. We got to find leadership on this year's team, and you can start seeing a little bit of that on the defensive side this year.
Well, I'll say this, and you mentioned Malachi at the very beginning of the show. Did it not seem like he played with an edge on Saturday, Jay?
He did.
Almost he's heard all the chatter. And I know he got beat one time, I think, by Emmanuel Henderson over the top. But I mean, there's not many guys that's going to keep up with Emmanuel Henderson 1-on-1.
Exactly.
And Milrow made a great throw. I mean, but Malachi played with an edge, Jake, and I think he's showing great maturity and great leadership. And I think he's really going to be one of the great leaders on the team this year. Him and guys like Justin Aboigbe. I think Tyler Booker, even though he's a second-year player, I think he has a lot of leadership qualities. So I think, last year it was basically Bryce and Will. I think you're going to see about 6 or 8 guys really step up and kind of take ownership of this team and this program and kind of turn it in the right direction and get things going in 2023. And I'm excited. Look, it's a long way until fall camp starts in August, but I'm excited, and I cannot wait till that gets here because I think, especially with the way people are talking, I hope they keep it up all offseason. I hope everybody talks about how Alabama's going to go 7-5 this year.
Please.
I really do. I hope they
Yes.
talk about it all off season long. I hope when SEC Media Days roll around, they pick us to finish about 3rd in the West. God, I hope that's what happens because if that's what happens, this team and Coach Saban are going to show up with a bad attitude, and that might just be what the doctor ordered.
Exactly. And I still see a lot of people saying they're not sold on Kevin Steele at defense coordinator or Tommy Rees, at offense coordinator yet either. So, there's a chip on their shoulders as well. So
That look, Saban didn't hire those guys for nothing.
exactly. I mean, last I checked, he was still the greatest coach in college football, still the highest paid coach in college football, and I'm glad I don't have to make those decisions like he does.
Dean, well, I can't.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dean. I really appreciate that.
Appreciate it.
That means more than you know, Dean. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much for being in the chat throughout the entire show. We're fixing to wrap it up. I have to get kids ready for bed and all that fun stuff. So we're gonna wind this show down. A lot of fun talking about the 8A game. We're gonna be here, all throughout the summer talking Alabama football. Usually during the summer months, for those that are new to our show, we like to kind of take trips down memory lane. Maybe look at some of the best players at each position under Saban. Maybe do a draft of the 2023 roster for each of us. We each pick 11 offensive players and 11 defensive players, and then kind of let the audience decide which of us picked the best team. So we'll probably do all that this summer. There's plenty of time to get all that stuff worked in here. We'll look at all the position groups as well, kind of individually, all throughout the summer as well. And of course, when Media Days rolls around, we'll kind of cover that as best we can, from an SEC perspective as well, not just looking at Alabama, but kind of looking at the SEC as a whole. But we're excited about that. A lot to look forward to on Tide Talk Live. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We had a lot of interaction there in the live chat. It was a lot of fun. But that's going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe today. And jump in the comment section if you're watching the recorded version, and give us your thoughts on the 8A game and the 2023 Alabama football team. But for Stacey Blackwood and Jake Thomas, this has been Tide Talk Live. And until next time, roll Tide.
Roll Tide.